just cartoon. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Ashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Yashodanandanam Brajajana Ranjanam Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. It's a pleasure to be here in Goloka Dham with the deities of Radha Gokulananda, is that right? Golokananda. It's my very first time here in this temple, and I'm very happy to be here. This moment is part of a tour that the Ministry of Cow Protection and Agriculture is doing in North America. So this tour is going through the farms of North America, and I serve as a Minister for Cow Protection and Agriculture. We still don't have a global Varnashram ministry in ISKCON, but we are working towards that. But my service is connected to cow protection and agriculture. There's another service which is Sustainable Vaishnava Communities, which is being developed gradually. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you in North Carolina. And I'm very happy to share my humble realization. I'm just a student in the path of bhakti, and I'll do my best to share my humble realizations with all of you. So let's invoke our prayers to get the blessings of the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Is it? Canto 10? Yes. Canto 10, chapter 45, verses 32 to 34, because 32 and 33 have no purpose. Yes? Yeah? Okay. Okay, that's right. Okay. So just read quickly the Sanskrit. We have a short class, right? Yes. 7:15, right? Yes, okay. Yato pasadya todanto gurovritim aniditam grahayathav upetosma bhaktya devam ivadrito. So the translation goes, Sandipani thought very highly of these two self-controlled disciples who had obtained so fortuitously by serving him as devotedly as one would serve the Supreme Lord himself. They showed others an irreproachable example of how to worship the spiritual master. The next verse, I'll just read the translation so we can have more time at the end to interact. That best of Brahmanas, the spiritual master Sandipani, was satisfied with their submissive behavior, and thus he taught them the entire Vedas, together with their 6 corollaries and the Upanishads. Verse 34 says, he also taught them the Dhanurveda with its most confidential secrets, the standard books of law, the method of logical reasoning and philosophical debate, and the 6-fold sciences of politics. And here is a purport. Srila Prabhupada says, Srila Sridhara Swami explains that the confidential portion of the Dhanurveda, military service, includes knowledge of the appropriate mantras and presiding deities of warfare, an advanced technology. Dharman refers to the Manu Samhita. and other standard law books, Dharma Shastras. Nyaya Patan refers to the doctrine of Karma Mimamsa and other such theories. Anvishikin is knowledge of the techniques of logical argument, Tarka. The sixfold political science is quite pragmatic and includes Sandhi, making peace, Vigraha, war, Yana, marching, Asana, sitting tight, Dvaidha, dividing one's force, and Samshaya, seeking protection of a more powerful ruler. Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. So the verse says, first verse says, Sandipani thought very highly of these two self-controlled disciples whom he had obtained so fortuitously by serving him as devotedly as one would serve the Supreme Lord himself. They showed others an irreproachable example of how to worship the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, beautiful verse. Amagyan Timirandasya Gyananjanan Shalakaya Chakshur Anmilitanyana Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasaji Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. And so very good morning to all of you. It is actually always good to start the day with the Bhagavatam. That's the perfect good morning. Because the Bhagavatam was written with the purpose to enlighten us. Just like the sun comes up every day and gives us purpose and direction, and we know what to do, we remember what we should do, and we start a new day. So the Bhagavatam is that scripture which opens all possibilities for the ultimate spiritual realization. And here we are looking at the 10th canto. And the 10th canto is the face, is described as the face, the lotus face of the Lord. We have gone through all his limbs from the first canto, which is his feet, to his legs, to now we are contemplating his face. And going through the readings of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we go through all the creation, we go through the different aspects of our own existence, our constitution, our body, the constitution of the universe, so that when we come to the 10th canto, we are ready to contemplate the absolute truth. So in this part of the Bhagavatam, it's been described the relationship with the spiritual master. In the previous verses, the separation between Krishna and the Vrajavasis has been explained, because Krishna and Balaram now have a mission, and that mission has to be accomplished. So there's a great feeling of separation, and he's dealing with his parents, and he's very much talking about the responsibilities that one has with her parents, and the depth that we have with them. And Krishna actually is very strong in his statements when he speaks about our relationship with our parents. So this verse is situating ourselves in the pastimes of Krishna, where this specific series of verses which you're reading from is guiding us towards the spiritual master, who is considered to be like a cloud who pours mercy in the form of rain. And the reason is the material world is considered in the Vedas as a place not so adequate for our living. And we all have experienced that. In the third canto, when the description of a living entity is coming, it is described the pains that the baby suffers in the womb of the mother. For us, who is expecting the baby, it's a great feast. It's an expectation. Here comes a new member. We are overjoyed. But for the baby, there is all the discomfort of the gastric fire of the mother. The Bhagavatam is describing all the worms which are part of the intestine is attacking that very tender body. And the body is really in the middle of a situation not so conducive. It's very tight. And the living entity at that point makes a prayer. Oh my Lord, I have been in hellish conditions. The living entity remembers everything it went through. And now I'm in a point of going out. So please, this time, help me to become conscious of you. So the living entity, all of us, have prayed deeply in the womb of our mothers, so that in this life we would make it. And if you observe in this room, each one of us, or those who are watching online, have somehow reached the shelter of a pure devotee, a spiritual master. And that connection is one of the greatest blessings that one could aspire for. Because that spiritual master can infuse into us the mood of devotion to Krishna. And especially the mood to renounce the pleasures of the material world, which seem to be so attractive, but once you enter into them, you just see the problems of the distress and anxieties which is created by an attempt to enjoy this world without Krishna. So the living entity is constantly being called upon. Why don't we work a little more? Why don't you become a little more famous, a little more rich, buy a new car? All of these callings on us, seductions, make us move towards those dreams. But as we grab them, we also grab the entanglements which comes with them, the burden to maintain, and the difficulty of having to live in North America. It's not an easy country to live in. There's so many expenses involved in living here, and each time more and more. So the spiritual master is considered like a cloud, which in the next verse is going to be called rasayana, like a nectar. So we sometimes go to India and we buy all this rasayana. Rasayana is like for the memory, ashwagandha, and all these rasayanas is like nectars for the body. And the spiritual master then considers as this utmost nectar, because he's raining, he's verting showers in the fire of the material existence. And he is actually, by his mercy, he doesn't need it, but by his impetus to serve, he's reaching out. We see that in our founder, Acharya. He was in Vrindavan. He had no need to come here. But somehow there was a sense of mission to his spiritual master that he should come. And he did come. And it's amazing when we read his story in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. what we understand of austerities, of selflessness, of sacrifice, it's unbelievable. We can imagine him starting in New York with no help, alone cooking and dealing with that counterculture mentality that everybody was equal and the Swami was just one of them, and they would ask him to cook unlimited chapatis and he would serve very patiently. So there's so many situations where we can observe that very pure mentality of unalloyed service to the Lord. So when he came to America, before he landed that famous poem that he writes on the Jaladuta, he's saying, "Oh my Lord, how will I infuse the nectar of pure devotional service to these people who seem to be so engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance? But if it's your will, it can be done, because you can do anything." So I'm just paraphrasing that poem, the Bhagavat Markini, where he puts himself as a puppet on a string who is now willing to do anything that is necessary to serve his spiritual master. So that's one of the first observations that a Bhakti Yogin really needs to contemplate, how fortunate we are that we have found such a personality, and through his disciplehood we have found living gurus who can guide us on our perfection of sadhana. And one very important aspect is Sandipani Muni was respectful to Krishna and Balaram. So it's a mutual respect relationship where the disciples respect the Guru and give everything for him. But at the same time, the Guru respects the disciples. And that marriage makes such a strong relationship. If we study the relationship of our founder Acharya and his spiritual master, we'll find a very extreme sweetness, which sometimes crosses the protocol of etiquettes. For example, our founder Acharya would sit on the same bed as his spiritual master. And he was criticized by some of his godbrothers. But the relationship which he was establishing with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur allowed for that action to happen. Because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew within his heart that he was the person who would spread this movement all over the world. So when he comes to America in the very beginning, he is extremely selfless and extremely humble. He makes no judgment. He accepts everyone. And that's one of the qualities of the spiritual master. And he respects his students, but as soon as they're mature enough, he corrects them as well. And that's when they start to experience the side of soft as a rose, hard as a thunderbolt. Because now it's by his mercy too that he's correcting. Not that he's angry, but he needs to correct them so they'll perform very nicely. So when he came to America, he started very quickly the temple in New York. Less people than we are here, and much less than are online. He just started with 1 or 2 persons watching his class. And he didn't make notice, he just continued. And because that desire to please Krishna was so strong, it exploded. One temple after the other, young people. And that's also another very important point. It's the young people who make the movement run. Prabhupada's disciples, if you were very old and senior, you were 30 years old. I mean, that was like a mega senior person. They were 18, 17, 22, 23, and they were already leading countries and leading yatras. And that empowerment that he gave to the youth was what was necessary for a revolution. So we hear all the temples in Toronto, in California, in San Francisco, all these places, in London. In London is when the real explosion came about. In that time, when 3 couples barely had finance to travel there, they only had $1,000 within their savings for all 3 of them. And they were surprised, maybe you have heard this before, when they reached the border of the UK, the officer said, you need $1,000 per couple to come in. And they were shocked. So 2 couples went to the main continent and 1 went through. As they reached the island, they wired the money back and the second couple came through. And like this, they had all 3 couples come through that $1,000. Now, the interesting thing you may know, you may not know, where did that $1,000 come from? Do you know? Anybody here knows? Actually, Her Grace Malati Devi was in Mumbai, and she was describing this in a room to us. And she said that Shyamasundara Prabhu, before joining, had a drug business. And he gave up his drug business so that he could become a devotee. But one of his dealings, business, failed. The person never paid. So like just before he came to San Francisco and then to go to London, a person came to him, hey, you know what? That person paid and here's your share. It's $1,000. So that was the $1,000 they had. So that's how London started. And from there, the Beatles and Europe and Prabhupada traveling there and the manner and the whole Europe Yatra. So you could see the potency of a disciple who is focused in pleasing his spiritual master. That was his life and soul. And when you read all their descriptions, their beautiful books coming one after the other, we can just understand what was the mood. That is the mood that Krishna is presenting in this verse. Krishna has the utmost respect for his spiritual master. In reciprocation, his spiritual master's heart is overflowing of love and desire to teach them all the Vedas. And here mentions that he taught them the war military science, and he taught them the Manu Samhita, which is really what regulates Dharma. So Dharma sometimes is translated as law, but Dharma also means intrinsic nature. Dharma is an incredible word. It also means, in its descriptive version, to get closer. You have the real, the reality, and you have the ideal. So the act of going from the reality to the ideal, that is Dharma. I know I'm not there, but the act of looking towards improving until I reach perfection, that is Dharma also. And to do that, there's another aspect of Dharma which you need to develop, which is develop virtue. So developing virtue is very much part of Dharma. So with this full picture of a law, intrinsic nature, desire to develop, to come closer to the ideal and develop virtue, all of this makes a sadhaka extremely equipped to transit the path of Bhakti Yoga and to reach, in the following verses, the ultimate goal, which is Vraj. So Prabhupada, as he was opening all these temples, he also opened a farm in New Vrindavan, right at the beginning, 1968. And he was infusing his disciples that they needed to live off the land. And I made a question to a very senior Vaishnava called Paramananda Prabhu. Prabhupada used to call, the 2 devotees Prabhupada used to call for a special name. One was Jayananda Prabhu. He was considered the Ratayatra Acharya. So when Prabhupada came, Jayananda Prabhu would sit right at the back, and Prabhupada, where is my Jayananda? The sannyasis were very close to Prabhupada, had to open, so Jayananda Prabhu would pass and sit close to Prabhupada. And the other one was Paramananda in relation to farms. Whenever Prabhupada would come to any place in America, he would first say, where is my Paramananda? Oh, my Paramananda is there. Because Paramananda Prabhu received a lot of his instructions. And I asked him, so Paramananda Prabhu, what did Prabhupada tell you? Are we into cow protection? Are we into some movement of... and he said, no. And I was shocked. I said, no, he didn't say that. He said, what he said was that we should live simply and worship Krishna and have extra time for that spiritual life. And that was revealing to me, because at times we become over excited with cow protection movement, with, movements of saving the planet. And Prabhupada was really focusing on you should live there so that you have time to worship the Lordships. So Prabhupada's plan actually is something extremely, extremely visionary, because in the 60s he could anticipate all of these environmental crises, all of the ethical crises we're going through with the vegan movement going very high, because people cannot stand anymore the cruelty towards animals like it's been done. It's not only that animals don't have an identity, it's just a piece of something in a piece of place. Because a hamburger is the most cruel medallion someone could offer. Reflect, what is a hamburger? A hamburger is a medallion made of pieces from many different animals. It's not enough to kill one and eat it. I have to have an assemblage of many animals which is mixed and becomes one medallion, which is served on 2 buns. That's the meaning of a hamburger. So you can imagine the distance between Dharma, which a cow represents, and a medallion called a hamburger. So Prabhupada wanted to show that if you lived off the land simply, you could have time to then be very strong, to very economically sound, and to be able to practice our spiritual life without so much entanglement. That was his major plan. So this trip in America, after 8 years serving the ministry, traveling, getting to know, doing conferences, we're actually launching a course called Feed the Earth. Feed the Earth is a course which is trying to get our expertise of devotees in different farms and teach together how to do that. And here I am in the flute song, and they're doing an excellent job there. They are planting trees. They're looking for a regenerative way of doing it. They have cows. I haven't seen the cows yet, but we'll see it tomorrow. And I'm very happy to see that this kind of example is close to you, because it's really something to look up to. Being able to regenerate the planet as we live is a very important message for preaching. Anybody who sees that we, as we transit life, we regenerate our environment, will come and applaud your actions. The minute they see that the fruits and flowers and lettuces and anything that you offer to the Lord is pure, is not poisoned. We go to the market, we buy so many flowers for the Lordships, but to be there, they're full of poison. The only person in our Krishna Lila who attempted that was Putana. She tried to put poison on her breast and offer poisoned milk to Krishna. And we are surprised how she got such an exalted position despite trying to poison Krishna. But even if we don't want to, we have no alternative. We have to offer items for the Lordship, and usually they're poisoned. So even the verse, Putram, offer a flower, offer a leaf. So this verse is saying, if you offer me a flower, a leaf, water, with devotion. And devotion does not include poison. Poison was put on his program. So how do we do it? That's why it's so great to have an example nearby. We are learning, we're starting. So if we can regenerate the planet as we move, people will come and will appreciate what we're doing very much. The Hare Krishnas are very happy. They chant on the streets, they distribute books, they keep cows, and they regenerate the planet. So we need to incorporate in our social image some of those elements. You're very welcome. I'll finalize on a sweet note so we can talk a little bit. This tour which I'm making is to launch a campaign and a course. The course is teaching us how to take care of Krishna's cows. And this is being taught by many experts in many parts of the world. From England, from India, from Australia, from America. We're trying to put them together on a platform. The second aspect is systems of abundance. How do you farm with abundance? Nature has a certain logic. Nature has a certain law. And that law, when you follow properly, abundance is a byproduct. And then you can live, because with abundance it's easy to live. And the third leg of the course is community dynamics. Because to do these things you need a community. And what is it that makes us be together? What is the element which glues us together? That's called social glue. And we teach how can you build up your social glue. So we are getting different traditional communities like the Amish people, the kibbutz, the native Brazilian tribes, Yanomamis, the Indian village, traditional Indian villages, and the new eco-village movement to give us hints, together with our scriptures, how do we live in community. Getting along without fighting, that's Prabhupada's desire. And it's not easy, but that's what he wants. So if you want to please the spiritual master, we have to cooperate. That was his final words. If you love me, you should cooperate. So that process of being able to cooperate is a science, and we need to learn it. And as we learn, the more we learn, the more social glue, the more we appreciate it. So that's the course. And the program, it's called Go Fund Cows. It's an opportunity for Go Seva. One successful businessman from BlackRock, a CEO of BlackRock is a huge investment company in America. It's called BlackRock. BlackRock. He was on a flight and he happened to sit next to His Holiness Niranjana Swami. And in 2 hours, he decided to make a platform where all the ISKCON Goshalas could be there. And anyone wanted to do Go Seva could do in a very transparent way. And he did it. It was tested for 4 years without any propaganda. And now we are launching. We launched it in Atlanta with His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. It was very nice. And Vedasara Prabhu. And now, as we travel in each temple, I'm launching this. It would be nice if you had a little, the picture is beautiful by Kaveri Mataji. She's an artist here in America, and she has a beautiful art. You could put it on your wall and help. Kaveri Mataji, she's an artist. She makes all this Janavi Harrison's art. She has an art which she let us use. She donated for this cause. It's a beautiful art. So you can frame it and have a little picture on your wall. So anybody who comes and says, I want to do Go Seva, there's a port there. He can do it. And I'll leave the links with everyone so we can do that. So these are the two things which initially brought me here, but the deep meaning is to meet all of you, all these fantastic devotees, like Apurva Prabhu. You know, we met so many times and he's so enthusiastic. And each time he injects enthusiasm into me to continue. So yes, so thank you ever so much for receiving me here. Thank you for your patience. And if you would like to make a correction, a comment, you're very welcome. Okay. Yes, I can. Oh, thank you for that. Yes, thank you. Amritanam Prabhu, he decided to regenerate a piece of land. And I was observing what he's doing. He's been learning from different teachers of permaculture, holistic management, different aspects, and putting it together so that he can teach from there. And today, he's starting that adventure. He has a seminar called The Divine Queen, where he's going to teach about beekeeping without violence. Without violence. How to do it in ahimsa way, in a way without violence. How can you develop a symbiosis with the bees where they help you by giving their honey, but you help them by keeping their colonies in a good position. So he's going to teach about that, and we're going to talk about growing gardens and this concept of feed the earth. I will explain more about that. It's at his place at 11 to 3. So if any one of you who's online also would like to participate, you're very much welcome to be there with us. And in the afternoon, I'm supposed to be here. Krishna Maharaj asked me to give the Sunday class, and he said they're expecting you here. So is that correct? At least he sent a message to me yesterday night. Says they are waiting for you to give the Sunday class. So I don't know if that was from him or. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll be back it's 5:00. Okay, and then we'll have more time. In the evening, we can explore more all these ideas. Yes. Okay. That works. Well, it was a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you very much for your attention, your care, and we'll continue this tour, going through different temples and farms, spreading the word. Prabhupada really wanted this. He really wanted pure ingredients for his bhakti programs. And we should be looking for supporting these initiatives because they're awesome. See, Apurva Prabhu, what he spoke to you. He wants you to establish Varnashram. 50% is resting in each one of us. And you're a leader here, so anyway, we're doing in the afternoon. I can give some hints of good things happening around the globe for all of us. Okay? So those of you online, Hare Krishna, thank you for being with us. Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.
pritimanti pasyanti panti kayanti chiram naganti ananda chinmaya sadhu jala vigrahasya govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami 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 Ijadari utaji iva Vivara Shesha Aloka Pravesha Nijajari Utaji Iva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna I agree Iva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna I agree Eva Nashringava Mana Shimada Sudana Ni Prajanjanan Janasha Ama Nashringava Mana Shimada Sudana Prajanjanan Janasha Ama Putana Gatana Koita Basatana Jaya Dasarati Rama Putana Gatana Kaitana Dasara Putana Gatana Kaita Basatana Jaya Dasarati Rama Putana Gatana Kaita Basatana Jaya Dasarati Rama Yasoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Puran Dara Yasoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Dara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Pumana Sundara Gopala Sundara Bala Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bala Ravanata Kara Makanata Skara Gopi Jana Vasha Hari Takara Makanata Skara Gopi Jana Vasha Hari Prachedarakala Gopa Vrindapala Chitta Hari Bamsit Hari Prachedarakala Gopa Vrindapala Chitta Hari Bamsit Hari Yogindra Bandana Shri Nandanandana Prashajana Baya Hari Nandanandana Prashajana Baya Hari Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Bamsi Bihari Vina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Bamsi Hari Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Bamsi Bihari Yashodanandana Kamsa Nishudana Nikunjara Savi Lasi Kadamba Kanana Rasaparayana Vrindavipina Nivasi Ananda Vardhana Premani Ketana Pulasara Yoja Kama Gopanga Ganana Chitta Vinodana Samasta Guna Gana Dhamma Panga Ganana Chitta Vinodana Samasta Guna Gana Dhamma Yamuna Jivana Kele Parayana Manasa Chanchacha Kora Muna Jivana Kele Parayana Manasa Chanchacha Kora Namasudharasa Gayo Krishna Yasa Rako Vachana Mana Mora Masudarasa Gayo Krishna Yasa Rako Vachana Mora Namasudarasa Gayo Krishna Yasa Rako Vachana Mana Mora Ibada Veshesha Aloka Pravesha Nija Jariuta Jiva. Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Ayagriva. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The night has come to an end, and the light of dawn is entering. O Jiva soul, arise and give up your sleep. Chant the holy names of Lord Hari, giver of liberation, enemy of demon Mara, supreme enjoyer, all attractive, and Hari Griva, the horse-headed incarnation. Nada Singh, a half-lion incarnation. Vamana, dwarf Brahmin incarnation. Killer of demon Madhu, beloved son of Raja's ruler, beautifully dark complexion, slayer of witch Putana, destroyer of demon Kaitaba, and victorious son of Dasara, Lord Rama. Darling of Yasoda, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, cow protector, Lord of Vrindavan, the gopis' beloved, lover of Radhika, and most beautiful in all the world. Cause of demons Ravana's demise as Lord Rama, butter thief, robber of the gopi girls' clothes, young herdsman of Braja, protector of the coward boys, thief of hearts and the flute carrier, worshipped by the best of yogis, Nanda's joy, mover of all affairs for the people of Braj, colored like a fresh rain cloud, enchanting in form, and charming while wandering and playing a flute. Yasoda's joy, vanquisher of demon king Kamsa, in joy of the rasa dance among the forest groves, and especially under the kadamba tree and resident of the woods of Brinda, increasing the ecstasy of his devotees, reservoir of all love, the transcendental Cupid who uses his flower hours to increase the loving desires of the gopis, the pleasure of the hearts of all coward women and men, and the abode of wonderful qualities. The life of the Yamuna River, always absorbed in amorous pastimes, and moon of the mind, which is like the moon feeding Chakora bird. Heed my words, these holy names are full of nectarian mellows, therefore sing the glories of Krishna. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavakacharya Stottara Satishi Shrimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavakacharya Stottara Satishi Shrimad. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanaya Shamakunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavanadam Ki Jai. Shri Maturadam Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.